at risk. Like you might have the truck and the capacity and the horsepower and all that stuff that goes along with it, but to actually utilize any of that, is gonna require that CDL. And so no, that's
I don't know. I mean, that's debatable in that I actually have gone in to get my CDL a few times. And the problem with CDL in Nebraska is that it's semi-truck driving. So they view it as a semi-truck or a freight truck, like a heavy medium duty truck.
right.
And so I can't go get a CDL because I'm driving a 1-ton that's towing 30,000 pounds. That doesn't exist in Nebraska. It doesn't exist many other places in the country because they've overlooked that.
Well, how do they cross state lines?
I can cross state lines, but they don't see that. But they don't. The thing with CDL is people think the CDL is this magic stamp of approval, and it really isn't. CDL, what that means is you are trained to drive. Like in my case, it'd be a semi truck or it'd be a medium duty truck driving around. But if I want to take my 1-ton truck and tow 25,100 pounds, I technically need a CDL, but there is no CDL program in the state of Nebraska to service that need.
Right.
Because when the CDL laws were written back in the 80s, 90s, 1-ton trucks could do that. Now there's this weird gray area here, right? And so now you get grandma, Mima and Papa, which I was thinking is funny, towing the Class C motorhome. They have a big motorhome. They put a truck behind it, whatever, or car. They're towing that. They technically don't need a CDL because they're below the rating.
Right.
But the reality is they really need a CDL. But the CDL, like the CDL class,
they need the training.
Well, the CDL class that I take was like, hey, check the tires, and you need to check the oil and antifreeze. You need to check your weight when it gets loaded, and you need to keep a log and this, that, and the other. Well, 80% of that stuff didn't apply to what I was trying to do. And I was talking to the state office, the DMV. They had no answer. The DMV has no answer for how I can tow legally at the limit of 1 ton. It's a really weird place we're at in the business where trucks have become so much more powerful, and the law hasn't caught up with that. And so they need a different level of CDL. Some states have a different version of CDL. Nebraska doesn't have it, but they have like a consumer grade CDL, which makes more sense. Like for me to take my CDL license in Nebraska, I need to drive the truck I plan on driving with that CDL. Mm-hmm. Well, the Department of Motor Vehicle anticipates me pulling up a semi, and I'm like, I'm going to pull up with a 1-ton dually, but the rule book and the rules don't apply to that.
Right.
Like, there's a bunch of like hazmat stuff going on that I have to skip. There's a bunch of like checking a variety of things that don't apply to me. And it's like, all I want to do is legally tow my truck with the 25,100 pounds. And I can't get a CDL to match that.
It's that, right.
That match that. Yeah. So just because you get a CDL doesn't mean you have a magic ticket to do that stuff. Now there's a lot of controversy in CDLs. Some people think that CDLs also increase the amount of insurance you pay based on the CDL. And I've heard other guys say that's not the case. There's a controversy there. There's just a lot of controversy. I don't believe that a CDL is a golden ticket. The other thing that causes an issue with CDLs, especially in my neck of the woods, is that let's say you're a rancher or farmer and you're towing within 150 miles of your farm. I think it's 150 miles. You don't need a CDL. So these guys, like the guy I was talking about, he can haul hay at 30,000 pounds down to Colorado and back, across state lines. But because he's a rancher, he does not need a CDL. It's part of
It's part of the community of what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they don't require farmers or ranchers to have that CDL. So I could be a farmer for 35 years and tow 40,000 pounds and never need a CDL. I can drive there's guys that drive semis as ranchers that never get a CDL.
Because it's like that back door in the industry, that gray area.
Because they don't need one. Yep. Because they're within so many miles of their farm.
Right.
And State Patrol has one scale per 400 miles. And those guys, as long as you don't get in an accident, they're looking the other way. Because they're not going to go okay, where's your address? They're not going to map quest it, right? And we're going to say, okay, well, you're 149.5 miles away from your farm, and we better. No, nobody's tracking that stuff.
Right.
As long as you're not in an accident, and then, like I said earlier, if you're in an accident, it depends on who's going to be there, state patrol, and how the lawyer's going to look at that.
Right.
I see.
So, and the other thing too is I've done 2 million-mile tundras in videos on my channel, and neither one of those guys had CDLs. The reason for that was that when they got to a CDL level and they got towing over that amount of 25,000 pounds, they had to keep E-logs. If you towed a half ton below that level, you did not need to keep an E-log. And so they didn't want to keep the E-log paperwork. And so they went to hotshot driving at towing a half ton. They didn't. Once you get into a 3/4 ton and 1 ton, you have to keep logbooks of where you driven, and it was written log for many years. Now it's electronic log, which is the industry's fighting. Yeah. But once you get to that CDL level, then you have to keep that. And CDL level plus you want to have 3/4 1 ton load levels. Then you need that. Then you need that your license to do that. But the 2 million-mile trucks I did were both half tons because, like I said, they didn't want to deal with that E-log and things like that. Did they make less money than maybe other hotshot drivers? Maybe. But remember, the hotshot driver is not just about towing oil parts or whatever. These guys towed hazmat kind of chemicals. They would drive to Washington, D.C., pick up some sort of Ebola, drug or disease. They drive to a lab.
They do hazmats and oversize. Like they'll pull the mobile homes and things.
Yeah, and just because you don't need a 3/4 ton for that kind of stuff. So if you're gonna go pick up a virus, a DC, in a container, you just drive that to Seattle, and you made your money.
Right.
Well, so do you not need your CDL to get the permits? Endorsement would like how you get endorsed for a hazmat load or endorsed for an oversize.
Right. So these guys went. I mean, they would do various chemicals, but they didn't have that. As far as I know, they didn't have CDLs do various chemicals. But they drove half tons because they didn't want to do the E-logs.